Hi everyone. I don't know when this will be released. I just want to say this. I'm recording this on Akane's birthday, which is July 15th. I have McDonald's next to me, so sorry if some bits get edited out. I'm probably eating or drinking, so anyways, let's get on to the video. So, you might be thinking, why does Sonia fail as a character? And in this two-part video series, I'll be explaining why I think Sonia fails not only as a character, but as a person. I also want to just say this video series is inspired by Aeris Akamatsu and their two-parter video on Kokichi Ouma, which I will say to go check out. I decided to make this since nobody else to my knowledge has made a video on why Sonia fails as a person and character. I'll also say I am very biased against her, and I'm very biased towards Asahina and the other character who will appear in the part 2 video. But I'm going to try and remain as neutral as possible. So if I do become a little biased for her, I'm sorry. That's just me as a person. Everyone has biases, whether we like to believe it or not. We all do. I can't be this completely unbiased thing. We'll always have an opinion on something or someone. So, sorry. I also want to say, I was at one point neutral with Sonia, but I kind of started to hate her once I played the game. Also, this video isn't meant to hate on anyone who likes Sonia as a character or likes her just because they like her. Personally, I like the way that the fandom, in any fan fiction, they always write Sonia to be this nice girl, which I kind of like more than her in-game one, because who cares? Let's just get into the video. Let's start off with the most basic thing. Who is Sonia Nevermind as a character and person? What is her role in the game? And who is she as a person? Let's start off with her role in the game. She doesn't really do anything notable in the prologue in Chapter 1. She really makes her first important bit in Chapter 2 with her figuring out that Pekoyama isn't sparkling justice because she doesn't know Spanish, which, yet again, this seems like, personally to me, that they just made Sonia know this random fact about sparkling justice and they made her like serial killers just so they could use this, because really after that, Sonia liking serial killers is really not mentioned in the main story whatsoever. So she doesn't, and then after this, Sonia contributes more in the storyline in Chapter 3, as literally everything Sonia says you agree with in this chapter, which is why I like to call it anything Sonia says you agree with. That should just be the name of the chapter because it's true. But she's really only a major role because she is the last person to see Saionji alive, and she actively led Saionji to her death, albeit unknowingly, but for some reason the entire cast just acts like she didn't have a hand in Saionji's murder, which she did. In Chapter 4, she doesn't really do as much and reverts back to her kind of Chapter 1 importance to the story, kind of just standing there. And in Chapter 5 to 6, she also helps out here and there. Now that we have a role within the story, let's talk about her character, and this is honestly where I think she begins to fall apart. Sonia is usually described as being nice. The issue here, though, is that she has no reason to be nice. There is no in-universe reason as to why she's nice. Of course, she's a princess of a nation, but she's currently not in said nation, and there's only 15 other people with her who are her classmates. She has no reason to be nice. Of course, being nice is what most people do, but all of the other characters with Danganronpa have a good reason to act the way they do, except for Kokichi. But Sonia is good and nice because why not? And for what I like to call good girl Sonia points. She does good things, but they're never heard from again. For example, it's either heavily implied or stated, I forget, that she took in the divas after Gundam died, but we never hear about them for her. And literally any student could have taken them in. In my personal opinion, she wasn't even close with Gundam, or he viewed her as a close friend and she kind of just viewed him as being an accessory. And now, anyways, let's go on to Asahina. I think that Aoi and Sonia share a very similar role within their story and have a lot of similar personality traits as well. So let's talk about her and her role in the story. Aoi actually does do some things of importance within Chapter 1 in the prologue. Being in the prologue, Aoi is the person who suggests everyone introduce themselves to each other, and she also takes on the role of a suspect in Chapter 1 for a while. and manages to prove with Sakura that Sayaka went into the kitchen. She didn't really do that much in Chapter 2, but in Chapter 3, she proves that you can't bend in the Robo-Justice suit, and finally in Chapter 4, she acts as the quote-unquote culprit, or tries to pin herself as a said culprit. And similar to the trash, I mean Sonia, Asahina is very kind and positive, which is kind of implied that she put on the front of being happy to help the other students, which in my opinion is honestly better than no reason whatsoever. Asahina also does nice things just because she's nice. It's who she is. When Hifumi was dying, she literally rushed up to him and begged him not to die, which honestly I think is better than all of the nice things that Sonia did do. Anyways, let's just compare them together now. Obviously, these two are very similar plot-wise and as people. They're both kind, nice people who do nice things, but honestly, let's talk about their differences. First of all, there's the big one in their talents and kind of what they do. Asahina's a pro swimmer and was on her way to the Olympics, and Sonia is a princess and the presumed heir to the kingdom of Novosellic. And honestly, other than these, they don't differ that much other than Sonia being written like shit and Aoi being a good character. Now let's talk about where Sonia fails ultimately as a person/character and why Aoi does not fail as a person and a character. For me, what makes Sonia fail miserably isn't what happens, it's what doesn't happen. And for me, it's the fact that Sonia isn't a killer nor victim. Like Aeris Akamatsu has said in their rewrite of Trial 3 of Danganronpa 2, it would be a good time to legit kill Sonia off. But I also do think that if they used a different motive, they could have used this case to make her a killer, as she's the leader of a literal country and doesn't care. If only there was another character who did that. Well, since there's no character like that, I guess I'll have to use this random quote I found of, "For my nation, for my people, I have to escape." Wonder who could have said that? I don't know. That character just doesn't exist. This character, Sonia could have used this quote actually. Personally, I think I'll talk more about this more in the second video, but I personally think Sonia also fails because she kind of just exists to be looked up to because she's a white woman who's always correct, whereas Asahina gets this actual character arc, Sonia just stands there. This is the video's conclusion. Sorry if my video isn't super long or in depth, but I honestly plan to cover this more in depth with Sonia and Kirumi in the next video, just because I feel like personality-wise, Sonia and Asahina are kind of similar, and I think Sonia being nice could be good if it was explained more in the plot, but I think Sonia and Kirumi are pretty much like I think that Kodaka realized how much people like the Super Danganronpa 2 characters, with the exception of Teruteru and Sonia, so he kind of just made them into other characters for some reason, but like the characters who actually fucking sucked in Super Danganronpa 2 being like Teruteru and Sonia, their V3 counterparts of Korekio and Kirumi were actually well written, whereas the well written characters like Nagito and Hajime, their V3 counterparts of Kokichi and Shuichi were written like fucking shit. So I don't know what happened there. Really, the only character who's similar to another, like Danganronpa 2 and Danganronpa V3, the only two characters that I think are really well written that like share a similar role is Akane and Miu. So I mean, or I guess it could be technically Akane and Tenko, as they're both athletic women, so I don't really know. Anyways, stay tuned for the next video.